have a confession. We've never watched Lost.
Now, we're tired of hearing about it, so we're finally watching the hit TV show for the first time.
Come along with us to the island.
And please stay close by because
we're so lost.
We need to go down to the bar and get a drink. We're also rewatching the classic ABC TV series Lost. I'm Bill Meeks.
And I'm Anne-Marie DeSimone.
And how are you doing tonight, Anne-Marie?
I'm hanging in there. How about yourself?
Great. We are coming to you a night later than we should have because I did a lot of voiceover at work yesterday and my voice was all sore and everything. Friday night, but we are usually Thursday night, 8:30 p.m. EST at live.universebox.com. And as always, we're joined by at least a couple of our chatters here.
Yay, chatters!
Angel T, Michael Lucero. We hear there might be another chatter coming through.
There might be a
possibly.
Rebecca Johnson appearance.
Yeah, we might get a little Rebecca Johnson appearance. You never know. But we love when you guys go over there. You can join the chat room at live.universebox.com. And it's a really good time. Now, we want to get started talking about this episode because it was very outlawish. But Anne-Marie, why don't you go ahead and tell them about our spoiler party? Spoiler policy.
Spoiler
I keep saying spoiler party.
Our spoiler policy.
She was smoking a big stogie before the show.
Or lighting.
One or the other.
One or the other. No, our spoiler policy. Normally we love spoilers. They make us happy. They're kind of fun for us. But since Lost is completely and totally aired and obsessed over and there's books published and all sorts of anthologies, we know everything that is possibly out there. We don't want to hear it. We want to stay as spoil free as possible. So if you want to leave us feedback on anything or have a discussion about something, just make sure you label what episode, what season, all of that good stuff it is. So that we don't go towards it until the time.
Yeah, and I mean, you can give kind of general spoilers.
Right,
like
general spoilers.
You could say something like, Sawyer has a relationship with a pig, but just don't tell us what kind of relationship that was. Just keep it off the line so we can be surprised when we're watching the episode and find out that, they were in love. Sawyer actually was in love one time, and it was with the boar. Calling it now. Just trying to explain our
spoilers policy.
Our spoilers policy, Anne-Marie.
It's going to be a good episode tonight,
Definitely. Why don't we go ahead and... let's see here. What's Michael Lucero saying here? He says, I'd love to do a spoiler party episode for Lost where I give news reports hinting at casting news and developments for future seasons.
I totally am okay with that.
Yeah, just make sure they're dated between season 1 and season 2. We could do it. Because I was thinking we should do a couple episodes between seasons. Like one maybe kind of like a...
The Derby Kid has arrived.
Yes, Rebecca Johnson's in the chat too. Okay, but we should get started talking about the episode. Anne-Marie, why don't you hit them up with the rhyming episode summary?
An unfriendly boar or the face of your father. Sawyer's the only man the swine cares to bother. He's racked with guilt for killing a shrimper who stole his revenge with one rainy whimper. Will Kate's carte blanche become Sawyer's faux pas? The island ain't meant for a couple of outlaws.
Outlaws. We're a couple of outlaws, Anne-Marie. What'd you think?
I liked it.
Did you?
I liked it a lot.
Why did you... give me all the reasons why you liked it right now before we start the discussion. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, you liked it, though?
I did like it. I actually liked Sawyer and had emotions. That was kind of neat.
That's good. He becomes more sympathetic as the show goes on.
A bit, but then he sort of like crashes and burns on it. Okay.
Yeah,
we'll talk about that.
Yeah, definitely. Actually, this didn't make it into my points, but I think it really comes down to what Jack was saying about his dad, about the fact that he said that thing about the Red Sox so he could kind of absolve himself of his actions, and I think that's kind of what Sawyer does. Like his whole sarcasm and nastiness towards people is just this huge defense mechanism, so he never has to face his own feelings. But that's not my first point. Let's see here. I guess I should get into my first point.
Let's start at the very beginning.
Which, ironically, is also about Sawyer. I'd have
never guessed.
It's about Sawyer's revenge. Now, Sawyer's entire life has been ruled by revenge and shaped by his lust for revenge. We get to see the inciting incident in this episode in the first flashback, which I thought was really chilling stuff. Like, the kid under the bed and the dad comes in and sits on the bed and blows his brains out and everything. But it got me thinking, I wonder who raised Sawyer since both of his parents were dead.
Oh,
And how did this lead him to sort of a life of crime? Do you have any ideas?
I'm gonna guess he went in foster care and there was nobody to shape
Yeah.
him because that. I mean,
Hmm.
that's the story you typically hear with stuff like that, or at least
Well,
that's
that
what
could be a once connection too, foster care.
it's ABC. Everybody's in foster
Hmm.
care. Stop looking at me. Scarf. Uh,
Oh, that's fine.
no, yeah, I think it's definitely it was a case of foster care. He might have even slipped through the system. Who knows? There was nobody guiding him, so of course, what's he gonna do? He's gonna do whatever he can to buy.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Yeah, but it just got me thinking because I hadn't really considered his childhood before. I
no,
mean, what we knew about it from the letter and everything, but I hadn't really
right.
considered what happened after that. Now I have.
Well,
Like,
also we had
who
no
found the kid under the bed?
right.
you know?
When did he actually come out from under the
Well,
bed?
I guess his mom did say that, oh, he'll think you were still at your grandparents or whatever. So maybe it was his grandparents who raised him.
Yeah, but we don't know how like old they were.
Yeah,
I
very
mean,
true.
maybe they aren't capable of like watching at an extended basis.
Hmm. Hey, by the way, over in the chat room, people are very excited that Angel is getting into the Lost show because of this podcast. As are
We do
we.
what we can.
As are we. You're experiencing it with us for the first time. Uh, Now, when Sawyer kills Frank Duckett, the shrimp guy, and realizes he wasn't the real Sawyer, he's robbed of this revenge that's kind of shaped his life, and that he's been working towards his whole life. I was wondering, and I mean, it goes into it deeper in this episode too, but since he's always been, led around by his thirst for revenge, is he going to try and get revenge on the Terminator? I mean, Hibbs, the Hibbs guy, the guy with the Tampa
The Tampa
job,
folder
the
thing.
Tampa job or whatever. And do you think he's going to try and get revenge on this Hibbs for setting him up before he leaves Australia?
Um, I don't know. I actually think it devastated him to the point that he couldn't really move on past that.
Hmm.
Like I know in Boone's flashback we see him being brought in to the police station.
Yeah.
I think that's very very possible that he got brought in from the shrimp shack or the sweet shrimp.
Oh, I could see that.
I see
I'd
that.
completely forgotten about that too.
I think that he really would have gone from there, and I think it just broke him.
Hmm.
I think it seriously broke him because why would he want to, he didn't want to kill an innocent person. He wanted to
Yeah.
kill this man who ruined his life
Hmm.
and his family. And I think that's really what did it. I mean, sure, he feels a little robbed of his revenge, but
Hmm.
not, he might not even focus on that as much as he focuses on the fact that he died.
Yeah. 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 And I mean, it must have just crushed him too. Let's see.
Mhm.
Over in the chat room, Angel says, don't trust info you get from the T1000. But joking aside, it does make your heart sink when you find out what actually happened.
Yes, with a lot of them.
Yeah, and Rebecca says, I think one of the strengths of season one is showing why the major losties were in Australia and why they got onto flight 815. And I have some thoughts on that coming up. I believe, I think they made it into the notes. But I thought it was interesting that now that Sawyer is on the island, since he might never get his revenge
Yeah.
because there's no way he's going to track down the real Sawyer if
Nope.
he's on the island, unless
He's on the plane.
Saeed's the real Sawyer or something, which would be a weird twist. But I think this is what kind of leads to his obsession with the boar. He's been ruled and driven by wanting revenge for his entire life. And the boar can take the place of the real Sawyer, so he can get that revenge. It's something he can let that emotion out on, so he can move on past it.
I interpreted the boar completely.
Did you?
I interpreted the boar as being the person actually killed coming back for their revenge. Because as
Mm-hmm.
Frank was dying, he said it'll all come back around. And then we see this boar going after him, and he can't get a leg up on it. The boar just keeps attacking and attacking and attacking. I think it was more to that place.
Mm-hmm.
And it wouldn't have done him any good. Like, he's face to face with him with the gun and chooses not to shoot it. I think in a sense because he has.
Mm-hmm.
That's my interpretation.
Yeah, well, I definitely I think his decision not to shoot the boar was definitely led by Locke's story. And you had a point about Locke's story, so why don't you go ahead and touch on that?
Oh, Locke's coffee talk. Okay. I'll get to his story in a minute, but he found coffee. He is the true hero of the island.
Yes.
And he would literally have to like stuff it down his shirt and carry it around for me not to spill every coffee.
One might say he's crunchy, he's crafty, and now he's highly caffeinated.
But his story was perfectly placed, whether it was true or false. He has this ability to be able to say exactly what people hear, exactly when and how they need to, and it's like it's his superpower, if you will. And
all of a sudden, Locke appears in the jungle.
A wild Locke appears in the jungle
and has a relevant anecdote.
He always has a relevant anecdote, but he says what people need to hear at that time, and that helped Sawyer realize how ridiculous he was being about this boar and there being a personal vendetta. I think that's kind of ridiculous. I mean, yes, it's ridiculous that the boar does not symbolize a person. That's what it's going to interpret in your head because you're ridden with guilt. At the point where the plane crashed, I mean, couldn't have shot that dude more than like a couple weeks and that's pushing it. It was probably the week he got on that plane. So it's been less than a month since he had his first kill.
Yeah.
So, and as we see from Charlie, which we'll talk about later, it messes.
Well, I think I kind of took Locke's story like Sawyer didn't realize where his rage towards the boar was coming from.
Right.
Until Locke told his story. And then when Locke told his story, he realized how silly he was being.
Right.
And how misplaced his anger was and his vengeful heart.
His vengeful heart.
Was.
But now, one little side note, Locke. What exactly is this man doing out here? Like, I know he just like wanders around the island, but at the point where he stumbles upon them, he said he's been following their trail for an hour. It's first thing in the morning. They just woke up and found that all of Sawyer's stuff is like peed on and eaten by the boar. Which it is funny that it did.
I got the impression that they were really close to the hatch because at first they were like, wait, those are Boone's footprints. We've been following Boone around.
That's true.
And then Locke shows up. So I was thinking that they were getting closer and closer to the hatch.
Oh, that's probably, I mean, it's possible.
So it maybe, Locke was on his way out to the hatch, saw Boone, saw Sawyer, saw Kate footprints, and was like, oh, let's go see what's going on up here and whatnot.
Okay,
That was my thought. Over in the chat room, let's see here. Angel says, let's see. I think in a previous episode, we talked about how it always seemed like with each episode, you ask questions about other characters' backgrounds. And then she says she agrees with you. She thought the boar was like a manifestation of either Frank or Sawyer's guilt over Frank. Yeah. And Michael Lucero says, could be. One of the interesting things about the island is that if it kind of forces all of them to deal with their past.
Well, what else are they going to do? They're on an island.
Very true. And I also thought it was kind of coincidental, kind of a bit of a coinkydink. How many times we've seen someone have to face up to their past because of some weird thing, like off in the distance in the jungle, messing with them, like Ghost Dad, Jack's Ghost Dad.
Oh, Ghost Dad.
A polar bear, a boar.
Oh, a couple of polar bears at this.
French woman, all this stuff is making people have to kind of face their past, which is cool. But before we move on from Locke, I just wanted to mention real quick, I thought that anecdote he told was kind of interesting because I kind of got a feeling that maybe some of Locke's backstory was kind of hidden in this anecdote, and it might come down to his survivor's guilt. First I thought it was interesting that in the story, his what was his sister's name? I forget.
don't know.
Jeannie. That his sister Jeannie broke her neck. It sounds like something that could maybe paralyze you. So I was wondering if the monkey bars event that he talks about in the story, is it an accident that happened to both of them? And maybe that's what landed Locke in a wheelchair and his sister died and he didn't. An alternative theory I had was that maybe Locke's survivor guilt over his sister and or mother, because his mother died
5 years
probably
later.
Partially because of grief over his sister and whatnot. If it caused him to do something reckless, which ultimately paralyzed him. Maybe Locke was a base jumper or something.
Locke was not a base jumper.
Well, yeah, I'm just saying something reckless.
I don't know. I was under the impression that the paralysis wasn't that old.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm not saying it, happened a week before he tried to go on his walkabout, but I didn't get the impression it was something that happened in childhood.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of see. I don't know though, because he kind of it seemed like if someone had only been paralyzed for a few years or something, do you think they would be as driven as Locke was to do the walkabout
I don't
thing?
know. Locke is a unique character.
But either way, and there's some noise over in the chat room on this. I hope we find out why he was in that wheelchair soon,
Right.
because I think it'll be a big step towards finding out why he isn't anymore. Which is still one of my biggest questions about the show. Is like, why can he walk now? And a Derby Kid over in the chat room says you'll definitely find out why Locke is in the wheelchair, which is good. Definitely good to know.
Very good.
Okay, so you wanted to talk a little bit about Charlie.
Charlie and his crazy mental status. Okay. So when Charlie turns down his walk with Claire after how hard he fought to help her last week, that should have been a big red flag for anybody around. But since Claire is just regaining bits of her memory and her place within the group, she didn't think much about it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad that in the end he did end up coming around due to the next couple of points. It seemed weird to put it in there kind of twice.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so glad that Hurley took it into his own hands to get Saeed to help him with Charlie.
Uh-huh.
I am a little curious that I see why he went to Saeed, but I don't know. Gone for the doctor. I don't know.
Yeah, what happened to everyone going to Jack for everything?
Well, he has been pushing back on everybody.
Yeah.
But I love that Hurley takes this place of wanting to help everybody, wanting everybody to be happy, because in all reality, he's a pretty happy, jolly, go lucky guy.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, I got this golf course. I'm playing you for the last stick of deodorant. I want you to stop being depressed and hitting coconuts. Like, I enjoy that he's the cruise director of the island. And you know what? The island needs a cruise director. But he goes to Saeed and be like, like PTSD thing, and let's see, no one other than the currently preoccupied Locke would even think to go talk to him, would even know what to say or what to do.
Yeah.
Even though I'm sure at least a handful of them got some PTSD going on.
Well, Angel brings up in the chat room, she figured that Hurley went to Saeed because he knows that Saeed had to deal with similar issues. Because I mean,
we did
everyone
see
on
with the torture thing.
Yeah, with the torture thing, and everyone knows he has a military background and stuff like that.
Right. And that's true, but I mean, it's also things. I don't know. They go to him for everything else. Let's see. Also, am I the only one who thought the discussion about Ethan coming back to life was predicting the future?
Yeah, I was thinking that
like,
too.
oh,
Because we were talking about
wiggling.
that last week about maybe or last episode. Ethan might come back because it's Weird Island and whatnot, and then they say this. So
and then they say it.
It feels like foreshadowing.
And the really bad, we obviously refilmed another scene to put in there because the lighting was all off. So I'm a little curious as to what's going to go on with that. You aren't alone. Don't pretend to be the advice from Saeed. At this point, there are multiple people who have someone before, and I think Charlie didn't hear that.
Yeah.
There are a bunch of people who obviously are dealing with this. Sawyer, but nobody really knows that.
Yeah, Sawyer, Kate, Charlie now, Jin, Saeed.
There's got to be more in there.
Probably Michael. No, I'm kidding.
I don't think Michael.
I was going to say Walt.
Oh, no, Walt.
Probably that dog.
I never know about the dog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's several killers on the island.
They need a group.
Yeah, that's what I thought was kind of weird about them being him and Kate being outsiders and the outlaws in that conversation, because they're not the only ones with blood on their hands on the island.
But they don't really have that discussion with everybody. Somehow they haven't all sat down and had a big kumbaya about it. About anything. Yeah. There's all these little pockets of people.
Angel in the chat room says, I mean, if someone regains their ability to walk magically, mysterious polar bears appear, then it is possible that Ethan could come back to life. In this world, it seems reasonable. It definitely seems reasonable. Okay, Anne-Marie,
Yeah.
you know what we like. We're going to take a little break. We'll get back to the discussion in just a minute here. But, you know, we're trying to grow our audience for We're So Lost.
Michael is here in the chat, not saying anything, not saying anything, not saying anything. So Ethan's coming back.
Maybe.
coming
But
back.
we're trying to grow our audience for Lost. And a big way you can help us do that is, you know, go tell your friends, you know, throw it out on Twitter.
Facebook.
Tell your real life friends, your aunts,
Who
your
has
uncles.
real life
I know.
friends anymore?
Tell the people you're out there playing Pokemon Go with.
How to
But
catch 'em all.
if you don't feel like doing any of that, you can just hop over to iTunes, where you're probably pulling down the podcast from anyway, and leave us a quick review. It's a great way for people to find the show, and they go and they click on it. Oh, 10 reviews, 11 reviews, and they read them and they're like, oh, this sounds great. And then they download it.
It's fabulous.
So,
and if we can get a whole bunch of them, then we can get on, you know, a list of.
Yeah, and if you leave a review, we'll read it on the show like we're going to do right now for the Mad Hobbit. You want to take that?
Sure. Like your favorite popsicle, 5 stars. Remember summer when you were a kid? Little was more fun than sharing your favorite red popsicle with your best friend. This podcast is as refreshing as that frozen delight. You see, Bill and Anne-Marie have never watched Lost until now. Those of us who sat in front of our TVs for all those years, commiserating and laughing and holding our collective breath, can share it with them now. As professional as their podcasts are, this pair always creates the atmosphere of being physically present with the listener, enjoying the show together, and with us on the other side of the electronic string and cans. We can revel in their predictions, correct and not so much, and see the story again or for the first time through their eyes. They are and always have been my favorite podcast crew. Come join us on the island because Bill and Anne-Marie really aren't so lost.
Thank you very much, the Mad Hobbit.
I teared up, Mad Hobbit.
Mad Hobbit's been with us for quite a while through more than just this show. So we really appreciate the nice review there.
Thank you.
And, you know, anytime, Strings and cans.
Now I want to make strings.
We'll be talking. Okay, let's see here. Hey, Anne-Marie, you want to tell them about our Patreon real quick?
Sure. Hi, we have a Patreon over at patreon.com/universebox. This is a way for you to make a donation to help support all of our fantastic podcasts and other projects. Right now, we are only consistently doing We're So Lost, but we also have our Legends of Gotham podcast, the recently defunct Greetings from Storybrooke. I've got my Crunchy, Crafty, and Highly Caffeinated blog. Bill's got his TV pilot, Infinite Tina. All sorts of craziness and shenanigans is going on over here, and we want to just keep developing it and making it better and better and better. And that's where we need our help from the Patreon. By making a small donation, starting at 10 cents, whatever you can offer us a month, it helps us beef up our content.
And, you know, if you're an audio listener to the podcast, I mean, the YouTube, the live YouTube clips go out the day we record them. We release the audio podcast usually at least a couple weeks early, like as soon as we're done recording them.
It'll be up
over for patrons only on the Patreon. So that's a great way to, you know, pick up the episode early if you want to. And it's a great way to help support us too.
Yes.
If you want to be one of the people that are awesome. The awesome base jumping wheelchair people. Go to patreon.com/universebox. There's 27 of you giving us $124 a month right now, and we love each and every one of you. And if you asked us to jump off a building after you, we'd grab your wheelchair
and push you off.
Yes. Patreon.com/universebox. And remember to think outside. Okay, before we get back into the main discussion, as always, we're going to hear from Michael, who's a big losty from back in the day.
Losty.
And he's always calling in to give us some non-spoilery, hopefully, insights to our naive ears. You know, he's giving his expert opinion. We're naive. Michael's going to take it away and do that right now. Take it away, Michael.
What the hell are you doing? You didn't have to. I would have paid.
You don't even know what you're doing, do you? Tell Mr. Meeks I was gonna pay. It'll come back around.
Hey, Bill and Anne-Marie. This is one of the
month.
few episodes where the flashback, I think, is better and more interesting story than the actual online plot. Despite my general ambivalence about Kate, I think her most interesting moments are when her story intersects really closely with another character. most notably with Claire and Sawyer, not as much with Jack. And this episode, I think, is one of the best Kate and Sawyer moments of the season. It really shows you how broken both of them are and how they recognize this in each other, especially in that I Never game, and they bond because of that. And I also really love the bar scene with Christian Shepherd and Sydney. You kind of get the beginning of this feeling of interconnectedness, which is a recurring motif in Lost. And Christian also talks about fate in that bar. And it's interesting because when I think about fate and destiny in Lost, I usually think about it in the context of Locke, which I won't really say much about that yet because he himself hasn't really said much about it yet, although he definitely will before the season's over. But I think Christian's brand of fate is really more like fatalism, where he feels like his own weakness prevents him from calling Jack, the same way some kind of higher force prevents the Red Sox from winning the series, which of course is ironic since they did not too long after Lost began. If I'm remembering my sports history correctly, which there's every chance that I'm not being a sports fan like Bill.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're doing better than me.
I really love Sawyer in this episode. I think he's hilarious. And I really hope y'all are starting to like him too, especially Anne Marie. I know he's a pretty big jerk at the beginning of the show, but I think he does progressively become more compelling and interesting as the story goes on. And that tragedy of the shrimp truck, man, just really punches you in the gut, I think,
Rip hot
when you
sauce.
realize how Sawyer was used there. And both for the man's sake and Sawyer's sake. And also, is this the first time we hear Sawyer's real first name, James? I can't remember, but I did notice they do use it in this flashback episode. Also, I never really thought about this until this viewing, but am I the only one who thinks Locke bringing Kate and Sawyer coffee was a bit underplayed here? I don't know about y'all, but if I'd been stranding on an island for weeks on end with no coffee, and suddenly someone all of a sudden walks out of the jungle and serves me some, I would probably be freaking out a little bit.
Yes.
We also see the beginning of another major season 1 plotline here, the raft. And I'm really excited about that because I think some of the best storylines of the season happen around Michael's new plan, including some of the stuff y'all have been hoping for a while, and the Sun and Jin storyline in particular as a little teaser. Anyway, I give this episode 61 out of 67 of Sawyer's pink shirts from the 80s. As always, thank you, namaste, and good luck.
Namaste.
Namaste.
One day we will find out why you're saying that. Yeah, I did think it was interesting that they kind of they just
They
noted.
didn't react. Me, I'd have been like, fork over the coffee. You're done, man. It's mine now.
Well, I mean, I thought it was interesting with the Michael Raft plot line that
Yeah.
it wasn't front and center. There was just a little bit in the background, and he has help now. So,
Well, I mean, a lot of those dudes, because 40 of them or so left.
yeah.
And they're just sitting around. Like, we really only get the story of 10 people.
Yeah.
So everybody else, they need to be doing something.
One thing before we get back into the main discussion, we started up something new because we realized that Facebook has depreciated pages as showing up in people's feeds,
Yup.
but they give increased
Groups?
priority
Yes.
to groups. So we started up, instead of having a Facebook page, now we have a Facebook group.
We have both.
And I can't look at it.
you.
I can't look at it right now because you'd have to log in, and I'm not going to log in to my Facebook account.
We have the
on
link.
the
Yeah,
stream.
don't do that.
Yeah.
We have the link to it in the Facebook page, and it'll also be up in the show notes.
Yeah, it's facebook.com/groups/we're so lost. So it'll come back here in a second. I don't know if we're streaming again yet. I think we're streaming, but we've lost my camera.
Oh,
So
that's interesting. Then.
yeah, that's interesting. That's fine though. Oh wait, there's my camera back. Good. There we go. Okay,
Are we
we're
back?
we're back. We're good.
Put it up on there so I can make sure we're back.
Okay.
I don't know it's back. This is just entertainment for the live streaming. Nope.
That's
Nope.
weird. Hold on.
Fun, guys. This is
There we
fun.
go. Okay.
Yeah.
We're back. Yeah, but facebook.com/groups/we're so lost. And we'd love to see you over there. But okay, so let's get back into the main discussion
Back to
here.
the show.
Back to the main discussion, and so they played this game of what Never Never Have I Ever, or I forget what they call it in the episode itself.
I never, but it's
I
never
never-
ever have I ever. There's like 16 different variants on this.
Yeah, but they did that, and we had a lot of really good outlaw facts
Lots of
that I
good
took note
moments.
of that I wanted to talk about.
Okay.
Okay, let's see here. Okay, so first up, Kate facts. First, she's never voted, which isn't really all that interesting.
Not really, no.
She's fallen in love and was married at some point. I don't know. I don't think we've really heard about this
Nope,
yet.
but it didn't last long.
But I'm wondering if it's the same thing, or did she marry somebody she didn't love to scam him? Because, I mean, that's kind of her MO. She's very kind of rapscallion-y, outlaw-y.
Yeah.
So she's never had a one-night stand. So I was thinking maybe she's been in love. She's never had a one-night stand. Maybe she's a romantic at heart.
She's a serial monogamist.
Yeah, because the outlaw lifestyle, though, it seems like it would lead to a lot of one-night stands because, you don't stay in people don't stay in your life long. You don't stay in
Right.
their lives long.
But I think she sort of pulls them in. Like, I think that's part of her MO is that she's in for the long haul and then scams or uses them to scam others.
Okay, and then last but not least, she's killed somebody, but we've seen her at least seriously. I don't remember if we've seen her kill somebody before, but
in the bank,
did she kill someone there?
I don't think.
But she has definitely seriously injured people before. If nothing else, the old guy she ran off the road and left for dead. So I don't know if that's what she was implying, or if it's some other murder that we have in the future.
It was somebody else.
And again, this could have been addressed previously. We have been watching these 16 episodes over like 9 or 10 months now. So
About that, yeah.
yeah, so it kind of gets a little fuzzy every once in a while. Okay, but then the Sawyer facts. He never forgot about that.
See?
Yeah. Definitely,
we just don't
definitely.
know who that
Thank you, Michael. That's why Michael's in the chat room and why he leaves us a voicemail every week to
Because he-
keep us on task. Because he's watched the series
Way
60,000 times, from front
They
to
made
back.
it just for him
He's actually watched the entire thing playing in reverse.
and could quote.
Trivia, Michael Lucero trivia. Okay, but I think at the end of the day, though, that Kate had way more interesting facts that spurred a lot more ideas in me than Sawyer did. But then again, isn't that always the way? The person who suggests the game is never the interesting one, the one that has secrets.
I hate that game
Yeah,
so bad.
definitely. Okay, so you hated Sawyer too, but now you're feeling a little conflicted, right?
Pardon the rambling point. I just sort of spewed out all of my information, and now I'm going to regurgitate it.
Oh, by the way, Derby Kid says that Kate, they do tell some of the stories that Kate mentions in the
I
game.
mean, they can't say that she's been in love and married and not tell that story over 6.
Mhm.
Sorry. Okay. I'm conflicted about my feelings towards Sawyer. He has always been presented as a jerk who doesn't care about anything about anyone except Kate. But this episode, we got to see he does have a bit of a softer side to him with his flashbacks. At the end, he seemed like he was going to start to lay the groundwork for a friendship with Jack, but he chooses not to say anything. Why does he feel like he needs to maintain his rough exterior to keep his place as Templeton, aka hoarding everything?
Mhm.
Does he think that by opening up, he'll be some of that power that he has because he has the mini bottles of vodka? Because I feel like he would be more powerful if he was on the team versus against the team.
Well, I think in Jack kind of says something along these lines to Kate early in the episode that he says, "I just don't want you to owe him anything."
Right.
I think the way Sawyer operates, he basically, he wants people to owe him stuff, or he wants to be able to manipulate people into feeling like they owe him something. So I think this piece of knowledge for him is more powerful, in his pocket until he needs it to get, so he has one up on Jack. Because they're constantly in this struggle, What?
I don't know. No, I'm not mad at you. Just sort of at the whole be friends. You're stuck on a freaking island.
It's the nature of Sawyer.
The nature of Sawyer.
Which, by the way, Michael Lucero in the chat room says Sawyer also might be lying about some of his answers in the game, which I thought was interesting. But you're a bit won over on Sawyer, a bit more.
A bit.
I thought it was really weird that, because I mean, I know from just the zeitgeist and everything that, this show in a lot of ways is built around the coincidences and the intersections of all these people's lives before they got on the plane. And I thought it was really interesting that Jack's dad showed up and kind of pushed Sawyer to do his big inciting incident thing that kind of led him to be on the plane, probably.
Actually, we don't know that that's what led him to be on the plane. We
Well-
don't know what got him on the plane.
Well,
we know
if it-
what got him on the plane to get to Sydney, but the last time we see him on the island, or no, not on the island, in Australia, is being dragged into jail.
Yeah, but
We don't know.
Well, I'm saying this incident with Jack's dad and everything might not have put his foot on the tarmac, but it put it on the curb so he could hail a cab to go to the airport. You know what I mean?
Okay, so we're 3 flashbacks away from where we were getting.
Like, the butterfly effect. This is the first flap of the butterfly's wings
Okay.
that led to him getting on the
Okay.
plane and leaving Australia.
Okay.
So I definitely I thought it was interesting. It kind of made me wonder if maybe, I don't know, especially with the Ghost Dad stuff from earlier in the season, if maybe Jack's dad is involved in the whole thing somehow. Like maybe Jack's dad is
information
well,
to the
well,
dude.
no, just
I'm
that
driving you nuts with this scarf, aren't I?
no, that Jack's dad is somehow tapped into the mystery of the island. You know what I mean? Like maybe he's like an agent of the island, and that's why he, pushed Sawyer to go do this thing he needed to do to get to the island, and why he died there in Australia is to get Jack there so he could go to the island. Which, by the way, something interesting. I think this might be the night that Jack's dad died.
Yeah,
when
it
he
is because he didn't have his wallet and stuff.
And Jack finds his wallet in his hotel room, when he gets back. So I wonder, I don't know, maybe even Sawyer comes back and
Sawyer doesn't kill him.
maybe.
No, I don't think the reaction that he had at the end. I think he reaction at the end of the episode if he'd have killed Jack's dad.
Yeah, but it was a very interesting kind of scene there, and I feel like we're going to be getting more and more scenes like that, just from what I've heard as we move on through the series. Okay, anything else on Sawyer before we move on? Everybody?
Nope.
1, 2, Sawyer. Okay, I wanted to talk a little bit about the Whisperers. I wanted to talk a little bit about the Whisperers. This is the second time we've heard them, I think.
It's more than the second time.
More than the second? Yeah, it might have been a couple more
But it was the second
times.
focus.
Yeah, and at first I thought that they were, connected to Ethan's people or whatever, or that were involved with Ethan, and that it was just a bunch of people out there in the woods watching from afar, maybe some natives even or something like that. But we've never seen any physical sign of them. There's no twigs breaking, no leaves moving, etc. And it wasn't, when it happened to Saeed, it didn't set off my alarm bells as much because he was all fevered and popped up and thought it might be a hallucination and everything. So I was like, oh, okay, whatever. But when Sawyer runs out there, in the moonlight, he's completely awake, completely cognizant, and we're getting the camera pan around. And it doesn't appear there's anyone out there with him. I mean, you can see through the trees and stuff, but they sound like they're really close. And so I'm wondering, one, did they send the boar after Sawyer? Because were they whispering about their plan with Sawyer or something like that? I was just wondering, are they part of the island and it's lesson teaching? Go ahead.
Sorry, I actually thought, and this could be thinking, I thought that it sounded like some of the voices from flashbacks.
You know what? I
thought I heard like a distinct line that actually was one that Jack's dad had said, which makes Ghost Dad even more prevalent.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I heard, like you could hear a complete line. I of course down because that would have been smart, but yeah, it sounded like people from the flashbacks. So I don't remember what Saeed's sounded like, and I feel like we've heard these voices other times. I want to say Michael, very recent, and Harley, somebody else heard voices and didn't know it.
Yeah,
but they didn't realize it the way that Sawyer and Saeed both have. And I feel like it sounded like voices from the flashback. which is even more creepy.
Which this is speaking of creepy. I just want to say that I wrote. I'm going to read this note exactly as I wrote it before we started the show. But Michael Lucero in the chat room says that reminds me of, and he marks it off with asterisk, echo of something. If you take my meaning, Rebecca, meaning that they're subtly joking around about something that happens later on in the show.
That's what they do.
And something about the word echo being special. I wrote literally in my next point. Could they be echoes of the people Danielle Rousseau tussled with when she first landed on the island, the ones that like took her kid and all that?
Oh.
Like, could they be echoes of them or even ghosts or something like that? You know, and if they are spirits, maybe they're connected to the smoke monster. Maybe he's like the big daddy ghost or whatever. or what happens, or maybe he's what happens when all these spirits reunite and get together. So maybe the whisperers are the smoke monster.
Oh.
Just a thought. Just a thought. What do you think? What do you think?
My mind is blown at the moment.
Your mind is blown?
Yeah, but I like that. I like the reconnected echoey spirits turning into the smoke monster.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I was just thinking of, you know, something else we've seen on the island that had kind of a supernatural quality to it. And, you know, that smoke monster is kind of ghost-like. I mean, it shows up in the daytime a lot, but there are some ghosts that come out during. They're not vampires, they're ghosts.
Ghost journey.
Okay, but, you know, just some thoughts. And I swear, Michael and Rebecca in the chat room.
It was already there.
The word echoes I had in there hours ago.
Totally.
Minutes ago.
30 seconds before.
Okay.
So, I believe I've vented that I don't really enjoy the Kate earlier, but we're going to go over it again. Kate is that girl in college who gets along with everyone. She can walk into any party, she fits right in, but she doesn't really feel like she fits in anywhere. Everyone thinks she's hanging out with another group because she gets along with them, but when pushed to shove, she's got nobody because she's in essence too popular person. I think we've all known that person who literally hangs out with everybody, but sometimes they're with no one because everybody thinks they're with somebody else.
Yeah.
And I think it's messing with her mind because she just can't find where she fits in. And I think that's part of why she volunteers to like little ventures with Sawyer, is to try and figure out, is this who I'm going to connect with? Am I going to connect with this person and this person? So she's sort of with the popular people when she's working with like Jack and Saeed and doing what they want. She's kind of the politician. She moves things over. She says what everybody wants to hear. Then she's with the outsiders. She gets her street cred from Sawyer by going, yeah, I was married, I killed the dude, whatever.
What else?
But then, you know, she's helping out in the gardens with Sun. She's playing the peacemaker on the beach. She's going back and forth between everybody. And she just doesn't know where she belongs. And I think she almost needs to find a little focus.
Yeah. The thing with her is I feel like they're trying to make her likable as the series goes on.
And they're failing.
No, I was going to say it, but I think you're not actually supposed to like her. I think they're trying to make her likable so she can betray us or the people on the island or somebody once we regain that trust. Because, I mean, the first couple episodes, she was shady as all get out.
Yeah.
And I still have that hanging on. Like, like Sawyer, I'm kind of, okay, he had a really messed up thing happen when he was a kid. He's been beset by tragedy since then, very recently even. Kate, I don't know. I don't trust her very much. I don't trust her
as far as I can throw her.
How far could you throw her?
Probably not very far.
Okay, so I guess that about does it for our discussion here. It's time to rate the episode with the arbitrary scale. Okay, Anne-Marie.
Yeah.
Out of 370 hot sauce shrimp, how many hot sauce shrimps do you give this episode?
I am going episode
out of 370.
355.
355. Why?
As Michael has pointed out a few times, the flashback was amazingly strong. We haven't said that too much.
Yeah.
There's been some strong ones. There's been some really cheesy ones, but I think this one took the cake. Takes the cake. Whatever tends to the cake.
The hot sauce shrimp cake.
The hot sauce shrimp cake. Yeah, it was great. I kind of wish it would have tied a little bit more into what was going on the island, or You know what I mean? Like sometimes we hate when they're so parallel-y. I
Mhm.
think we just could have had a stronger story on the island,
Uh-huh.
but with the same level of parallel-y. Also, yeah, I want more Charlie and about to have that baby. I really was expecting us to end on Claire going into labor. I'm like waiting for the episode to like black out on her going, my water broke or something.
Okay, over in the chat room, Derby Kid gives it 360 hot sauce shrimp, and Michael also gives it 360, and it was a shame that Sawyer let that delicious shrimp go to waste.
Right? Who doesn't want shrimp out of a truck?
Well, I'm sure Frank or whatever his name was probably just ate it, just ate the loss. Let's see. As for me, I'm going to give it, just because I don't want to give it the same rating as Michael and Derby Kid in the chat room, I'm going to give it 361 hot sauce shrimp and 1 mild sauced shrimp.
Was it mild or sweet?
I think it was mild.
I thought it was sweet.
I thought it was mild.
Seeing there was a giant sign on top that said sweet shrimp.
That was just the name of the place. Sweet shrimp.
Sweet shrimp.
Say that three times fast.
Sweet shrimp, sweet shrimp.
No,
sweet
but I
shrimp.
really liked it. Again, as we've all said, the backstory was very strong.
Yep.
I thought I actually really liked that Never Never Have I Ever scene with Sawyer and Kate. But it was good. I liked it. My one complaint where those 9 hot sauce shrimp went is I feel like we're kind of spinning wheels here. Like there's been no major push forward on like the overarching, mystery of the island or whatever. I know that's a frustration that people have said, you feel throughout the entire series, but I feel like we need to take 1 or 2 steps forward on that soon.
That would be nice. Michael points out in the chat room that Lost is a show about characters above all. Mythology and weirdness always take a back seat for the most part, and season 1 is most focused on the characters. Hence, why sometimes the plot moves more slowly. That'll definitely change for seasons. To which Derby Kid adds, season 1's focus on building the characters, they keep typing, is why the show continues to grow. They are able to layer them throughout the series.
Good points, all.
Good
points, all.
Good points from everyone.
Okay, we'd love to hear your good points too. So if you want to write us in and talk about our reaction to this episode, if you want to write in about a future episode, just label it clearly so we don't read the spoilers before we watch it.
Right.
But we'd love to hear from you. Email us we're so lost at gmail or
We're so lost
podcast at gmail.com. The Facebook is facebook.com/groups/we're so lost. The Twitter is at we're so lost. And the voicemail number is 424-274-2352. Again, that's 424-274-2352. And we did get one tweet this week from Acro Disney Girl.
Acro Disney Girl?
Yeah.
She said, can I just fangirl out that you are watching Lost? I'm more excited to hear a newbie view on Lost than a new episode of Once Upon a Time.
Once upon a time. Once upon a Lost. Okay, but we will be back next week, Thursday, 8:30 p.m. EST at live.universebox.com, talking about how we're so lost and everything. We want to thank our chatters, Angel and Michael and Rebecca /Derby Kid. Check out her podcast too, supergirlradio.com. Good show. Good show. But Anne-Marie, where can people find you online?
You can find me on Twitter at DeSimone, blog crunchycrafty.com.
As for me, you can follow me on Twitter at Bill Meeks. You can follow all of the podcasts we do at universebox.com. And, I won't plug Infinite Tina because if you subscribe to this feed, you got the episode. But you know what I will plug?
What?
My hair. Because much like my hair, you know what we are, Anne-Marie? We're so lost. We did it. We're done. Okay, now we got to come up with a. I only have 3.
There was a good one in the middle, and I can't remember what it was.
I only have 3 episode possibilities here. We're gonna put them up on the screen in 3, 2, 1, and I'll put them in the chat room too. It is Locke as a base jumper, the Whisperers, and Big Daddy Ghost.
I like Big Ghost Daddy.
Big Ghost Daddy?
Yeah, I don't like Big
well,
Daddy
I said
Ghost.
Big Daddy Ghost.
All right, well, whatever. I heard Big Ghost Daddy in my head.
Derby Kid says she needs to get us some Lost stuff for our studio.
We still need to figure out how we're going to hang up our Robin Lord Taylor poster
Yeah,
because it's our living room now. And I'm trying to not hang up, but I want to, but I don't want to. I'm very conflicted. It's a problem. Never, ever have I ever. Yes, never have I ever is so much better than what you put up there.
I kind of like the whisper.
Deal with it.
Lock as a base jumper. I like that one too. But what we were thinking about doing, guys, and sorry if you don't care about this at all. Okay, we'll do Never Have I Ever.
Exactly.
But we were thinking about maybe getting those Chinese screens to hang up
like the
behind
folding
us.
screens?
Yeah, we were thinking so we can
Hidden things.
put posters and whatnot behind us like we did back in the old studio.
Oh, so then I have another thing I have to.
Yeah, it'll be good.
Uh-huh.
Be fun. Like 3 things. Okay, so are we doing Never Have I Ever?
Never ever have I ever.
Never ever have I ever. Okay, we'll do Never ever ever. We have been outvoted.
No, you have been outvoted.
I have been outvoted.
Yeah.
Yeah. I should have been showing the chat that whole time.
Probably.
But okay, guys, we're gonna take off. Thanks for joining us. Hope to see you around next time. Rebecca, if you're around tomorrow night, we're doing a roundtable with the Gotham TV podcast, guys. I would love to see you in chat. If not,
if you can,
check
if
out
not,
the
just download
podcast.
it.
It'll be fun. Okay, bye, guys.
Bye.